G'day everyone, welcome back to Steve's Place Down Under. It's currently about 5 a.m. on a Thursday morning here. I've got a week of carers leave. My wife had an operation, so I've been staying home, taking the kids to and from school and swimming lessons and whatever. So I've still been getting up early and coming over and doing bits and pieces. So I have been using this crane. You've only ever seen it probably, I think there was a startup episode as well, but I took the Kenworth and picked it up. I found it on eBay of all places when I was looking for filters for one of the other Chamberlains. I'll give $800 for it off a nice bloke up the Central Coast. And I haven't really used it, only we had it going when I unloaded it. But I've been working around the house, not over in the shed. There's a job I needed it for over there because I've got 2-ton blocks, probably 12 or so of them, retaining a wall behind the house, and they're just not working out. So this is the only thing I could think of that would lift them up. So I went and just sat a drum of diesel on the back, and this is water, and started up and drove it straight up there and started using it. So I haven't really done any maintenance on it, and it did break yesterday. That's the reason it's in the shed now. So I'll take you for a walk and show you what it actually did and what we're going to do to it while it's here. You don't get much for $800. A 9G or a 6G tractor over here brings about $6,000, and this is what this is. It's just reversed. Plus, it's probably handier with a crane on it. It's a Steel World crane, which made in Melbourne, like my big crane carrier truck you've probably seen down the back with the Leyland in it. I've used it a few times on a few episodes. It keeps blowing those hoses, so tyres aren't real good on her. They're going to need water in them because I've got to basically, if any sort of incline, you've got to reverse it up because it's just got no traction. But I found out yesterday they've got no water in them either, so that's one thing I'll be doing. It did break off where it slews from. So what I'm doing is I'm poking the jib in under the eave of the house to pluck these blocks out. And I noticed yesterday you've got to use a lot of slew so you take the weight of the block and then slew it away from the gutter and then lift it up. And I noticed she lost quite a lot of slew actually. She only just moved a few degrees, and I thought, what's wrong with this? Maybe the block's too heavy, but she'd peeled away from there. I'll just focus she's in there. She'd peeled away from there. It was cracked, so to its advantage, I should have really welded it to start with, but anyway, I sort of brought it over and put the jib up against the post of the shed and then slewed it so it pulled the crack back together as much as it would, and then I filled the gap with what I could with what I had. I think that's going to be fine now. Another thing I want to do is that air cleaner's not hooked up. That's just off a little Isuzu or some sort of Japanese ute or a vehicle, I'd say. That came with it, so I might as well clean the filter out and use that. It does need a water pump that I've used the Patreon members' money for, which is in that box under that battery charger. But because I needed it in a hurry, I've been using it how it is, and I've let it run hours on end, and it still hasn't got hot. It is spinning, so anyway, I'm happy with that for the time being, so I can still use it. And the generator, which are basically just belt tighteners at my place, isn't spinning. The belt's just that old and it's just spinning in that groove. So whether I put an alternator on it or just something there to tighten that belt, the amount of times you start something like this, it doesn't need to charge. But if I put an alternator on there, I'll hook it up. I've got a lot of old spares like that. That's another thing I'm going to do. One of the tyres is digging in when you drive it because the track's out a little bit. You see that one there's leaning in. That's because there's a few reasons. There's a thrust bearing collapsed on this side, down in that axle. I've actually got 4 tractors like this. There's 2 reverse and 2 tractors, and they've all on the same side got that same thrust bearing gone. So that's a contributor, and then that's an 825 20 tyre, where this side is a 900, so the tyre's taller to start with, and then that bearing, so the axle's leaning in, so it's not wearing the kingpin, it's actually the different size tyre and the thrust bearing gone, so that's why that's laying over. I didn't hook the fuel tank up. This was just when we started it. it looked a bit shitty, the old fuel in it, so I need to drain that out and hook the tank back up. So this is when we first started it, so I just run with that method again. The throttle's not hooked up. I tied a bit of wire around the fuel pump, which is that there. I've been pulling on that because the throttle shaft is seized under the floor pan there. So I'm going to free that up while it's in here, and I got a seat out of one of our D10s at work, or one of the bulldozers anyway. I think it was one of the D10s. We just replaced the whole seat, the suspension frame, the seat and everything. So when they wear out, they go in the steel bin. So I brought this one home. I did have the suspension on it, but I took that off because one, it was too high, and two, well, you can lower it down here anyway, but two, it was 24 volt, and you don't need suspension in something like this. So I'm just going to push it as far back as I can and just tack it to that plate, and that's fine. So it's got the Caterpillar seat in it. It's got power steering, which is good. Brakes do work, but they probably need greasing, all the mechanism. And it's pretty much all I'm going to really do to it, just so it's usable. I've hooked the starter button up, cut all the old wiring off it doesn't need. Probably needs a service, but it has got good engine oil in it. I've drained that. So, first thing we're going to do is probably, oh well, I don't know, hook that alternator up or that air cleaner. That pin needs knocking back in there. My tractor episodes don't do overly well, but some of you may be interested, so I'm going to film it anyway. It's not in sequence of what we're doing, because this is actually doing this for a job, not just for content and truck related stuff. But what we're going to do with the trailer and the 8-wheeler Kenworth, I'm actually doing this so I can use it at the house. So some of you may be interested. Just had Jeffrey from Old American Iron on the phone, so I was sort of tinkering while I was yapping with him, but you didn't miss much. All I done was cut the strap off, the bodgy strap that was holding this, plus took 2 bolts out. Always good to have a chat with Jeffrey. Got these stupid ratchet spanners. I don't even know why I keep them. It's not really 1/2 inch or 9/16, that bodgy nut there. Don't even know if it'll be 13. It's a tight 13. If I was restoring it, I'd get the generator working, but I'm not restoring it. If it was spinning, I'd leave it on there just to tighten the belt, but it's not. It's only the common stuff at my place, like the late model tractor and the forklift that I use regularly, that have got their own battery that charge. Everything else is swapped around that much. It doesn't. You wouldn't know if they're charging or not. It's currently freezing cold. Can't close the door because of the jib's poking out. Probably should still be in bed. This was right on the coast too, around the salt water, so it hasn't really affected some things, but others it has. Like all the tin work and everything's pretty good, but other things are seized. I don't know if that's just being old or is the salt air, but I do have a generator that'll fit straight on this to tighten the belt, off another Chamberlain I've got, exactly the same mount. But I thought if I do put an alternator on there, it's not a hard job, it may charge. You can see where she's just been spinning. Nearly chrome there. I may have to change the weld here, I'm not sure. Probably going to need a longer belt to start with. Oh, I think that'll work. I think it's really got to move forward about there, which that bracket's elongated, but where it goes on the water pump isn't. So I can either space it out where it goes on the water pump, or just cut that bracket where it goes on the water pump and see she's elongated here, and there'd be enough in that, but it's welded to a bracket going back to that water pump bolt. All I can really do there is, well, it looks to be enough thread to space it, I suppose. Just get it all mounted, pull it back apart, and then pick that amount of washers to go in there. And then this bracket here, I would probably, which is your adjusting one, I'd probably just take it off and drop it down to that next bolt so it lines up. And I think that'd work great. Probably what I'm going to do. I do have another generator just on the floor out there that'd fit, but if it can be charging, it's probably a machine you would leave a battery in and use more regularly. Okay, so seeing there, I've spaced it, and then she's come right up on the slots here, so it's right up one end. I got a little bit more out of it because there was a bit of build up in the back there. It's not just a full nut on that stud there without a washer, but I'm happy with that. It's still pulling tight. So I had to take the bracket right off because this was 5/16 these holes. I could have just used a short 5/16 bolt there and clamped on one side, but I would rather come right through. And to do that, I only had 3/8. I've got a bolt 3/8 long enough, but you're not going to be able to get a nut on it. But I would rather use threaded rod because then I can wind a nut up on either side and jam it all. So it's not the, it's not the most quality piece of booker rod I've ever seen, but it's, with how it's working, it's going to be fine. So I've drilled the bracket out to suit 3/8. I've just got to straighten this. It's got that slight bend in the end of it. Then we'll cut it to length, and that should be fine. And then we just got to put the stay on it, the adjusting bracket, which I've taken off. I might just pick up one of those lower bolts. If I've got to put a longer one in, I will. Most of it's UNF, which I've got. So the idea is to have it right up against that. Put a jam nut on this so it's pushing that against there. I'm just thinking aloud. That'll go right through. So, have a jam nut on there, one here, and then a nylock either end. So, it'll take the flex out of her, and then this bracket should be on there. Something like that. If I've got to space it, I've got to, anyway, it's going to work. But the thing is here, I'll have to put those jam nuts on with the rod in there. So, if it ever has to come back off, it's going to be a bit hard, but it doesn't matter. For the price of that stuff, you'd probably cut it. I think there's a few lengths still here, but it shouldn't be coming off, and providing that does work. If it don't work, well, we can just tighten the belt. getting close now. I just basically got to tighten it all up. To leave it a little bit loose for the adjustment. She's basically all seated. I've never really used these ratchet spanners. I've got a set of gear wrench ones there, but these aren't bad if you can get them. They're just too thick to use anyway. They just come with a kit, but the right place they're all right. Okay, so I think that's very good. I think that's going to work really good. Now I've just got to mount this bracket down the bottom here. So I'm going to have to space that bolt at the bottom because it's in a recess. Probably get a longer one, then space it. There's still a bit of distance from the belt to it. It's slightly off a little bit, but as close as buggery is to swearing, I suppose. It's not going to come out of those deep grooves anyway. Okay, so I had to weld the hole up and then re-drill it because it wasn't quite long enough, and then just filed that track out a little bit longer there. Should be fine now. Never sees on that. I'm getting a bit excited here. I'm fairly happy with that in the 45 odd minutes it took. Belt's pretty straight, really. I mean, it's out a little bit, but certainly nothing to worry about. It's off that pipe, everything works. Next thing is I'll have to run an on and off switch because in order for that to work it needs to be excited, which means putting power into it for it to put back out. So it just needs like a toggle switch up here. There's the starter, so it just needs a toggle switch with it to basically a 12 volt feed into it, so it excites it and then so it can produce power back out of it. So which is easy, that's no problem. We've got plenty of switches, plenty of wires. Probably bodge it up to start with. Oh, I'll do it properly, because if it don't work I can just put one in there that does. Just got to remember to turn that switch off then. I could put a light on there, but it's getting a bit carried away. Okay, so I'll probably do that now before we move on. Okay, so I've wired it up off camera here. So I've got one going to positive on the battery and one to excite it. So they both come up here. I've just done it all through the switch. Because they're not running lights or anything, it's only charging that battery. I didn't run it's only through thin wires. I think it'll be fine. Because there's a hot wire up here already from the direct power from the starter, that's where I've run the alternator to. So I'm gone through an on and off switch under here. When that's flicked on, it'll supply the starter button with power and it will excite the alternator. So, and then hopefully, if that works, it should put back out into that hot wire and then charge the battery. So I'll get a reading on camera off the multimeter now, and then we'll quickly tickle her in the freckle and see what happens when she's spinning. It's going to create a lot of smoke in the shed, but I've got to duck out for a while anyway and watch my daughter in a running athletics carnival thing up the next town up the hill there, so I'll be cleared out for a while anyway. Okay, 12:44, so that should be up around 1380 probably when it's going. I'll just put the camera down to start her up. She hasn't been going today, so I might just give her I've been giving her a quick sniff first thing in the morning, but I don't think I've got any over here. Can't see any flammable aerosols. Anyway, see she goes. Haven't tightened the battery lead back up. Oh, she's keen to go. I thought that was out of gear. The stick's that bloody floppy in her. Try her again. Save that old starter. See if we've got any brake cleaner or something here. Getting flash, it's actually working. That's without revving it. Hang on, the earth's falling off. Look at that. Not too many things to work on her. Well, I don't know where that alternator come from. I just got a box full of them out there, so I'll start as an alternators, but it works. Ain't beautiful. You got a jump start and everything with it now. Just got to remember to turn that off. I could hook a light up, but most of the time I disconnect batteries and all this old stuff anyway, just so there's no problems overnight and no drains or anything like that. So now that's done, I'll move on with something else. I was going to hook this air cleaner up, as I said earlier, but it looks like it's a dry paper element, but it looks like someone's run it as an oil bath as well, and it's absolutely soaked it. You can see that's still got oil in it because it was upright, so I don't know what they were thinking there, but I'm going to try and find another housing or something around here so I don't have to buy an element, because that's beyond cleaning, because it's soaked with oil. I don't know if I've got any laying around. There might be something on an old tractor down the back or something I can adapt to it, but in the meantime it's still usable. It's not a dusty environment where we are, but it's something that does need doing. So I've got to grease it. I've got to check the gearbox oil because it's making a hell of a noise. Not clunking, but just like it's a dry bearing or something in there. It's back to a usable stage. I want to put some water in the tyres because you've got to reverse it up all the hills. It just won't drive with that big counterweight. Plus the back tyres aren't tracking straight and there's no grip. So I think water's going to make that better. Well, probably pays to work on equipment before you take it straight to the job, which I knew, but I just wanted to get it done. But I thought while it's here I'll drop it out. But have a look at this. This is the main transmission. I wonder if it was noisy. That's just water. Oil hasn't started yet. I just had a wonderful subscriber call in right at the right time with 100 litres of hydraulic oil and gear oil for me and some grease. I couldn't thank him enough. Just a wonderful bloke. Thank you, Daniel, if you're watching, mate. It's just magnificent. I can't thank enough. There's some wonderful people out there. It couldn't come at a better time either. I would have put S30 or something in it, but this bloke dropped some proper heavy duty gear oil off, so which they're recommended in these. I think it's 80-90 anyway. They're recommending these old girls. So while he's got so much there, I might do the diff as well. Check the ball gears in the final drives as well. Okay, this is what this bloke dropped off, Daniel. It's just magnificent when people go out of their way for you. So that's, you give me gear oil and a 46 grade hydraulic oil. So 46 is what I bring home from work out of all the machines anyway that's already been used. It's got 2,000 hours on it, but out of, you know, a brand new piece of Caterpillar equipment, it's not worn at all compared to what these old machines require. So I'll use that, and probably the excavator something a bit better than these old things. So, and that gear oil couldn't come at a better time because I've just dropped this, and you saw the muck that come out of it. Listen to this bloke in this 6-wheeler. Jacob's right down through town and it's empty. Probably put your foot on the front wheel and slow down. So I've checked the oil in the ball gears and the diff. It's clean, it's fine. It's got no water in it, but some of them are a bit low. So I'll top it up so that's the drain, the oil level there. And it's the oil level there. The other side's full, so I just put a bit in a watering can and top those two up. I changed the engine oil off camera too. It was a bit watery, but even though it's been done, I thought I'd flush it, and I'll fill the transmission up. She's certainly getting a lot more attention than I brought it over for. Extreme pressure gear lubricant was just gonna be just fine for this. Just move that. Geez, she's going to love me, this old girl. She wouldn't have seen any attention like this for a long time. I'll have to pump a bit of fat around her when I'm done this. Makes you wonder where it has gone. There doesn't appear to be any leaks on the gearbox side of it. Maybe the input shaft out the other end of it, possibly. Each bit around that. So she's not checked over the years, it all adds up. I'll have to get a set of filters for the engine too and do that. The engine, I haven't got an oil filter for it. Something you do need to be careful of with these old girls. One of the other ones I was filling up, an old circus crane I've got, the same transmission. She was down a bit and I started filling her and she was running out the input seal, or the output seal, whatever it was, whatever end it was. Dipping her into it and she's running out the other end. Get a bit of this up around the teeth, you'll love it. A bit more weight over the front of it too for that traction. It all helps, I suppose. It's full. It's all tapered plugs in this too, so nothing's overly tight. Alright, Sizzle, you can come over for a look at the road. What do you think of that? gear oil everywhere. That's why it's stuck, dirt stuck to the old shifter. I want this to be an old hooer that you can just bloody go over and start and use and turn off, not work on like most of the other tractors. It takes longer to get it going than it does to do the job. Like the old bloody French Massey Ferguson 30. I went to rake the roads the other day and the 3-point linkage lifted up and she dropped, and that was it. I took the top off the transmission, and it's, before I got it, someone had raised there's a coupling, a live drive from your 2-stage clutch. There's a coupling in there that someone had just brazed the coupling because the spline was stripped, and that brazing had let go, which is what drives your power takeoff pump and your power takeoff drive in your hydraulic pump. So I won't split it because parts are hard to get. I think I'll get like a cobalt or a tungsten drill or something and drill down through the shaft and just put a shear pin in it. I'm not going to split it in half. It's not like a British or a Pommy Fergie where you can get bits from Kmart. They're just a bugger of a thing. They're a Massey Ferguson but made in Spain. The only thing good about them is the Perkins, which is a genuine Perkins. Pretty reliable little tractor until something like that happened. I didn't pay a lot for it, so it doesn't really matter. So I only raked the roads with her. If you couldn't put a slash or anything on it, it'd just end up wrecking it. Or a brush hog, like you blokes call them over there. Okay. Gee, she'd be smiling now. New oil too. Bloody thick stuff. Probably a bit thick for a transmission. I don't think you'd be able to change gears if it was a multi-speed, in a truck or a ute or anything like that. But for something like this, was just basically forward and reverse. It's ideal. You could take the bearing noise and everything right out of it. I won't film doing that transmission. She's up in behind the king post there, but you get the idea of it. Just to interrupt this video, it's actually at the end of the video nearly, but after we've moved it out, but I'll put it in at the start for those of you who are still watching. Not everyone watches to the end, but we recently lost our hard drive. I don't know if some of you may have seen our community post. We lost it, and on that was probably 5 or 6 episodes that had been recorded on starting the 9G after we got that home, unloading it, changing some tyres on it. The 514 first start on it, splitting it in half. Straight away, there's 4 episodes, splitting it in half to find out what was wrong with the clutch. There was an episode on one of the trucks down the back that took basically all day to do. A couple other things. There's probably 6 episodes all up, so we have got no backlog of episodes now. So when you're watching this, we've got nothing recorded, unless we can take it to some computer bloke that can pull it back off, recover it. I don't know when we'll be putting another episode out, because all the plans I've got here don't involve any of the trucks or anything. They're just jobs around the house. So hopefully this week we can go in and try and get it recovered. If you're not seeing anything from us, that's why. Just come down the old David Brown down here I'll probably never see it going. I think if it had all I don't know. It's not completely gone, it's complete. It's just the engine stuck and a couple of rusty rims and that on her. I think I knocked one of the lift arms off her many years ago, but I'm just going to pinch the air cleaner off her rather than buy one. I may as well use what I've got. If I ever get it going, I'll put something back on it, but she's got a fairly decent looking. I guess just unbolt it, put it on that crane. Hasn't got anything. I mean, I'm not in a dusty environment, but it still all adds up. It's still stuff in the air. She's a big old girl, this. I got it given to me from the mob I do a bit of volunteer work for. She'd had no trouble pulling your 40 back in her time. She's a fairly decent sized thing, but It's a shame she is locked up. Well, you can't save them all, I suppose. If anyone is interested in it, it's a 1200 Select-O-Matic. For parts or anything, let me know. That's all I'm going to use it for. I'd probably pull the head off it and, I don't know, unstick it, but what for, I suppose. Needs 2 front rims and 2 back tyres, and it just makes it too much effort for something I don't need anyway. Okay, here it is here. It's an oil bath, which I like. I think they're a good thing, as long as they're clean. And probably have to cut, there's got a bit of a bodgy join here. Looks like some water could get down in there. That's just an extension, so I can cut that off anyway, that doesn't matter. I was going to use that same pre-cleaner, but it's got rust in the top of it, so it'll just leak water anyway, so I'll have to find something for that. Doesn't have to be much, it doesn't even need a pre-cleaner as long as something stops water getting in there. I don't think there's anything on this one. I thought there might have been, but it's not on there either. I think it'll work good. I might just cut that off, cut these brackets off here, and then just put a big clamp around it, put it straight in under the bonnet, then the bonnet itself will keep the rain off it. That'll work out good. It's never had a snorkel on it by the look of it, and that's where it was. It must have just breathed under the bonnet, so that it can do that again. It's not like it's ploughing where it needs a pre-cleaner. Okay, there's the end result. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I'll give it a good clean out in the parts washer. It was loaded with dirt and grass and all bits and pieces sucked in over the years, so I had to cut it off short up under here. There's a crossbar just above it, so I cut it off short, but it's still not going to get water in there. If I can find it like an immediate rubber bend, I could put there just to, in case any water did blow in there. It's more this hole here I'm probably concerned about, but it doesn't matter. Had some hose clamps. I just joined 2 together, which you can do. Just threaded them together to make one long one around it, and it's not going anywhere at all. They're really tight. Full of clean engine oil. I think that's fine. I think it's going to work really good. So the next thing is probably tomorrow now. I'll run it outside. I could probably run it out now, but I'll jack it up. You've got to jack it up so the tyre keeps its shape, let the air out, put the valve up where you want the water level, and then I've got a fitting to go on there to fill them, so I'll probably run it out and I'll do the tyre tomorrow. I've got to go and watch the kids again. I'm only getting a few hours here and there to play with these old girls at the moment. I don't even think I've got any beer, which isn't real good. See if she goes. I haven't had it going since I hooked that old fuel tank up, so she might have a bit of air in that too. Got a habit of just twisting battery terminals on. I don't tighten them because I take them off overnight. There's obviously a bad connection here somewhere. There's not a worse sound than that, I don't reckon. All the rust is falling out of the roof onto the seat. I'll give it a good belt before with a hammer and shook most of it out, but some's still there. She got bad breath in the shed too. So I've got the throttle hooked up as you've seen. I even hooked the stopper up, just a bit of wire straight back to the rack. Sometimes that's good if you're parking on a hill and there's no park brakes in these old things. Well, there should be, but there's not, most of them. Your lever in gear, so this one you used to have to walk around and turn her off. Just put a bit of a wire loop there. Give that a pull. I put a spinner on the steering wheel. I was going to wrap some 100-mile-an-hour tape around it, but I found that hanging on the shelf, so I thought, geez, that's good for that. And I might just, you see that wheel's straight there. This one's kicking out that much, so I'd like to get rid of that because you drive it on the grass up to the house and it's sort of leaving like a bit of a windrow, like it's ploughing it with the wheel. Took all the bends out of that tyre rod, she'd probably come good. There's one this side plus one the other side. There's plenty of thread left on them anyway. That's another thing I've got to do. So, and I might give her a gurney, but probably going to use it first. Okay, I've got it jacked up here. Just do one side at a time. You don't really have to jack it right up, only take the weight, but I had to spin this one to get the valve at the top. That's where I want the water level. I want maximum weight in the things because it just won't drive anywhere. So now I'll pull that out. The tyre will then hold its shape. If you take it off here, not just the valve, that should unscrew. Yeah, like that. I'll do it on camera actually. Actually, no, I won't. I want to just see what pounds in them first with the gauge. Take it off there, drain it, and then I've got a fitting to put on there, then plug the hose on. Okay, it's got 15 PSI in it, which is pretty good. They do go a bit flat, but they're getting a bit thin too from wear, so I'm sort of happy with it where it is. I think the valve was in this blue tractor out here. Found it was in the top of the toolbox. It's just a basic Nitto workshop fitting. It's got that hole in the side there which it breathes through and a bit of tube brazed into it. So it'll breathe water out of that while it, air out of that until the water level gets to it, then water. Okay, I'm just going to let that go steady now. Water's running in, and when it comes out these telltale holes, those breather holes there, that's it, full. You probably keep it going a little bit more, but time you get your valve and that in, it's going to squeeze a lot of that back out. And then we'll do the same the other side. Actually, last night off camera, while I was having a couple of cool ones, I didn't film it because there was only VB in the fridge, and I didn't want anyone to see me drinking that. I just popped that ball joint off there and give her a couple of winds, and then I went to start the motor up to turn that wheel with the power steering, and it wouldn't. I don't know if it got an airlock from what I did yesterday, or there's a block in that tank, which there didn't seem to be when I hooked it all up. And it's got no hand primer on it, so whether it was just an airlock in that line, I'm not sure. I have to try and get it going again. Okay, just while the tyre's filling up, for those of you who are new here, if you want to see any more tractor content like we're doing now, or trucks, I've got plenty of trucks. This is only a pinch of them. There's a lot down the back. These are all basically the good ones that are registered. Please click the like button, please share, please subscribe. We've been struggling to get subscribers and viewers lately, so I haven't been doing as much with this stuff as I probably should. When you see results like that, you tend to lack off a little bit, and you just go about your day as, you know, what you would have been doing otherwise. So there's a range of stuff here: Kenworth, White, International, Volvo's a Volvo over the back there, Detroit diesel, 4 of them Detroits, one's a V8 Cummins, one's obviously a Volvo, one's a 400 big cam Cummins. So a lot of stuff in here that if you're new here you haven't seen. If you want to see it, go back. Most of it's in the previous episode, so please click the like button, it really helps. Please subscribe, please comment, even if they're bad, it doesn't matter, doesn't worry me at all. So thanks everyone. Again, if you are new here, there's lots of old engine content as well. A lot of these have had first starts: Ford, Chev, Holden, Some of my tractors there, that's a little bit of the collection. Farm tractors, another truck there, Detroit diesel. Work on farm tractors, we use them. I'm not farmers, I just love tractors. Pick them up. This one we just went for a big drive to pick up. Was my grandfather's. We found it, for those of you who hadn't seen it yet. That's part of the footage I lost of the video aired of us putting tyres on it and bringing it home on the Kenworth 871. So it's a good cab ride with that one as well. But the hard drive, all the footage we lost off it, the cockies. White cockies. We lost the footage of unloading it and doing the first start. Hopefully that can be recovered. I've collected some old Australian-made 6 cylinders here based off the Chev engines. I'm going to try and make a frame for those and get one of those going. The other two I'll sell. Plenty of different stuff for those of you who haven't seen us yet. So please click the like button, share, subscribe. Really helps. Okay, half an hour later, she's full. Took a long time. I'll stop that hose now, then I'll screw the valve back in, adjust the pressure and do the other side. Okay, we're getting ready to drive her out and she kept stopping, so I don't know if it's getting, after hooking this tank up, it just doesn't run right, so whether that line's cracked externally, internally, I don't know. It could be where it joins the pickup down there, I'm not sure, but it's just, you can see air the whole time it's running and there's smoke everywhere. It's just not running like it was off the drum, so I'm going to put the drum back on it and then take it to work. If I can finish that job. It's now lunchtime. I thought I'd be over there at 8:30, but that was, I don't know, 3.5 hours ago. So thank you to all those people watching. I know these tractor episodes don't do as well as what I think they should, but anyway, thanks to Patreon members, thanks to people that buy stuff from us, thanks to people that comment on the Facebook, the Instagram sites, and just over all those people that help us in general. Thanks very much everyone for watching.